She disappeared without a trace. Then, mysterious ransom notes began to appear. As investigators raced against time, one question remained. What really happened to Nancy Guthrie? She vanished without a trace from the safety of her own home. Then the notes appeared, turning a terrifying disappearance into a confounding public mystery. These notes changed everything about how the world understood the case of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie. People across the country watched the news in collective shock, their hearts heavy with a shared sense of dread and confusion. As details emerged and then conflicted, one central, haunting question echoed through every report and every conversation. What really happened to Nancy Guthrie? The answer remains elusive, shrouded in a fog of fear, unconfirmed reports, and a family's desperate search for the truth. This story began on a cold February 1st, 2026, in a quiet community near Tucson, Arizona. Nancy Guthrie, a private citizen, was thrust into the national spotlight because she was the mother of Savannah Guthrie, one of the most recognizable faces in morning television. The personal became painfully public, and the search for one woman became a story followed by millions. Before the headlines and the frantic searches, Nancy Guthrie was simply a mother, a grandmother, and a cherished member of her community. Her life was quiet, defined by familiar routines and the love of her family, which is precisely why her sudden and violent disappearance was so shocking. The timeline of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance begins on the night of February 1st, 2026. What started as a normal evening in her Tucson area home spiraled into a nightmare. Investigators have pieced together a sequence of events based on witness accounts, family communication, and crucial electronic evidence. The last confirmed contact with Nancy was earlier in the day, leaving a window of several hours when the unthinkable occurred. The first sign that something was terribly wrong came when family members were unable to reach her by phone, a break in her usually reliable communication that immediately raised alarms. The most chilling piece of evidence from that night comes from a surveillance camera on Nancy's own property. The footage, later released by authorities, shows a masked individual dressed in dark clothing on her porch. The grainy, black and white images are haunting. While the individual's identity is obscured, their presence confirms Nancy was not alone that night. This footage transformed the case into a probable abduction, suggesting she was taken from her home against her will. When police arrived to perform a welfare check, their findings confirmed the family's worst fears. The home was disturbed, and near the doorstep, investigators found blood. Forensics began the meticulous process of collecting every possible clue. Neighbors later reported hearing unusual sounds, understood only in retrospect. Early evening, routine contact; late evening, masked individual on the porch. Night or morning, family cannot reach Nancy. February 2nd, a welfare check launches a kidnapping investigation. The moment authorities discovered signs of a struggle, the investigation escalated with urgency. What began as a welfare check was now a full-blown kidnapping investigation. The first 48 hours are critical. Pima County set up a command center and reached out for assistance. A multi-agency task force formed. State investigators and the FBI. Federal involvement brought resources and expertise. Public appeals went out almost immediately. Authorities pleaded with residents to check doorbell cameras, security systems, and dash cams. Simultaneously, Savannah Guthrie used her platform for a national plea. Her voice breaking, she begged the public to come forward. On the ground, the search was massive and methodical. Search teams fanned out on foot and on horseback. Drones scouted from above, and K-9 units tracked scent. Investigators processed evidence. Forensics analyzed the blood. Detectives built a picture of Nancy's life, reviewing phone records, financials, and appointments, while officials stayed tight-lipped, stoking public anxiety. And then, the notes. Just as the nation grappled with the abduction, the case took a confusing turn. Days after she vanished, ransom notes began to surface, delivered to media outlets. The first credible message, reported by TMZ, was a cold, professional demand. The outlet said the FBI deemed it credible, demanding $4 million to be paid in Bitcoin, difficult to trace. Specific, non-public details gave it terrifying authenticity and set a 4-day deadline. Before the dust could settle, a second contradictory message appeared. Reports from CNN and NBC News, citing law enforcement, said another note was received. It claimed Nancy had died shortly after being kidnapped. Unintentional, it said. No further demands. Only an apology. The conflicting notes created a heartbreaking narrative. Was one a cruel hoax? Two parties? One seeking ransom? One confessing? Or the same source with a deteriorating plan? Law enforcement said all communications were being investigated, while declining to confirm many details. Official silence left the family stranded between a ransom demand and a claim of death, a terrible limbo with no clear path forward. What happened after she disappeared? Who sent the ransom notes? The arrival of the ransom notes, despite their conflicts, injected urgency. While one note claimed she was deceased, there was no body, no conclusive proof. For investigators and her family, that meant there was still a chance, however slim, that she was alive. Search efforts were redoubled and expanded. A wider grid pushed into remote terrain. They combed washes, searched dense brush, and checked remote roads. Drones provided an eye in the sky, K9s worked the ground. Volunteers joined professionals under the harsh sun. Determination and solidarity. They combed canyons and inspected abandoned structures. Press maps showed vast cleared areas, countless hours of labor. Parallel to the ground search, a digital investigation surged. Detectives and FBI analysts worked around the clock. They re-examined surveillance across a wider radius for vehicles or people out of place. They analyzed cell tower data to pinpoint potential suspects, or Nancy's phone. The notes opened a new digital frontier, the wallet address in the first demand. Cyber experts hoped for a trail to follow. The toll was palpable. Images of determined searchers filled broadcasts. Neighbors and volunteers spoke of love for the Guthries and resolve. The family expressed profound gratitude for every effort. As days passed without answers, anxiety grew, but so did resolve. Could one overlooked clue solve the case? In a kidnapping investigation, every decision carries immense weight. A report suggested one early choice by the task force had critical consequences. The first note demanded $4 million in Bitcoin, providing a direct wallet address, a rare digital link. The kidnappers set a 4-day deadline. Sources said a debate unfolded on how to handle the breadcrumb. Instead of engaging with the multi-million demand, a minuscule test payment, about $152, was reportedly sent, hoping to verify the wallet and trigger trackable signals. But the kidnappers weren't fooled. The small deposit was never touched, never moved. The wallet remained dormant. Without greater engagement, the abductors may have ceased communication. The deadline passed. The path went cold. Experts debated the strategy. Some say any payment is risky and caution is standard. Others argue failing to meet kidnappers partway may shut down the only active line. Law enforcement has not officially confirmed crypto tactics. It underscores the difficulty of split-second choices when a life hangs in the balance. It's a stark reminder of how fragile a single lead can be. Could one overlooked clue solve the case? The disappearance quickly became a national media event. Savannah Guthrie is a familiar face on the Today Show. Her family's tragedy drew instant attention and sympathy. She returned not just as a journalist, but as a daughter making a desperate public appeal, broadcast across NBC and echoed nationwide. She urged anyone with even the smallest detail to call. Even if you think it's nothing, please make the call. Coverage was relentless, but it kept the case alive. Surveillance, sprawling searches, and somber briefings filled screens. Conflicting notes fueled frenzy. Rumors spread online. As of today, June 25, 2026, nearly 5 months later, Nancy Guthrie remains missing, and no arrests have been made. The investigation is open and active. Authorities confirm only the basics: the date of disappearance, the discovery of blood, and the existence of surveillance footage. The second note claiming death remains unconfirmed by officials. Savannah returned to air, thanked the public, and renewed the call for help. The family reportedly hired private investigators working in parallel with police. Digital monitoring continues. Other electronic clues are being scoured. Large public searches have subsided. Investigators re-interview and pursue tips. Authorities urge the public. A small memory might be the missing piece. For the family, it is painful waiting, suspended grief. Their resolve inspires many. The case of Nancy Guthrie is a tapestry woven with more questions than answers. As investigators continue their work, critical unknowns linger. Where is Nancy Guthrie? Is she alive? Being held somewhere? Or did the second note tell the truth? Without a body or proof of life, her family is trapped in limbo. Who was the masked figure? Did they act alone? Who wrote the notes? The abductor, a cruel opportunist, multiple people. One demanded money, the other confessed accidental death. These have never been reconciled. Did the alleged test payment cut off communication? Or would the trail have gone cold anyway? Early choices and motives shaped this case. Despite time and no breakthrough, there is still hope. Hope lives in tireless work, in new evidence, a forgotten camera, a witness finally coming forward, technology unlocking a digital clue, a small, re-examined detail. This is the hope investigators and the family hold on to. For now, the final chapter remains unwritten. Answers, justice, closure, a daughter's love, and a community's support. We will keep asking, what really happened to Nancy Guthrie? If you have information, contact the Pima County Sheriff's Department or the FBI tip line. Your call could make all the difference.